If this midnight truth leaves your hands shaking, hit subscribe, tap like, and type awake in the comments, because after you hear what happened next, sleep is a luxury. The call hit dispatch at 12:17 a.m. A whisper on a dying phone battery, a woman saying, "He unlocked the door," and then a hollow thud, as if the phone fell into a sink. Officer Lena Hart and Detective Marco Duval were already circling the West Ferry blocks after an unrelated chase fizzled out by the docks. The trace put the phone on Ashgrove, a street of aging duplexes where porch lights burned like tired eyes. House number 41B sat back from the curb, windows closed, curtains too perfect, a single lamp bleeding a weak cone across the walkway. No one answered when they knocked. The door wasn't just unlocked, it had been tested from the inside. Lena's glove found the latch still warm. Inside, the living room was clean, curated, almost staged. A couch with military corners, a TV paused on a muted home renovation show, coffee in a ceramic mug cooling in an even ring. No struggle, no overturned frame, only a smell out of place, bleach threading the air like a warning. Duval noted the details out loud for his body cam. No visible forced entry, mug still steaming. TV paused at 00:13:29. Unknown caller reported an intruder. They moved down a narrow hall lined with family photos set at precise intervals, birthdays blurred by candle smoke, a graduation cap in mid-tilt, and then gaps where frames should have been. Not removed, never hung. Empty nails, 3 of them, like missing teeth. In the kitchen, a single plate waited in the rack, water still beading on its edge. The trash bin held nothing but citrus peels and a folded receipt from a 24-hour hardware store stamped 11:42 p.m. Lena checked the back door. Locked, bolts intact. A damp footprint was drying beside the mat. Narrow, size unknown, toes splay. As if the foot had been barefoot and braced for silence. Duval found a phone on the counter, latest model, powered on, unlocked on the Maps app. The last search read, "How long does it take to..." And then it cut off. The keyboard had a smear across it, where a thumb had dragged, abruptly. It felt less like a crime scene than a waiting room. They called out the resident's name. The lease listed Mara Ellison, 32, night shift nurse. No answer. The apartment above them, 41A, hummed with an aquarium filter and late jazz. A neighbor cracked her door, eyes glossy with the kind of curiosity that hides fear. "Heard a noise earlier," she murmured, "like a drawer closing real hard. Maybe 12:10. She keeps to herself." When asked if anyone had a key, the neighbor shook her head. "Only the landlord. Basement's shared. No one goes down after dark. Moisture and rats." Back inside 41B, Lena noticed a fine grit along the hallway baseboard, like plaster dust dragged by a broom. She followed it to a door flush with the wall, paint a shade too fresh. No knob. A recessed pull and a padlock, polished from new handling. The receipt from the hardware store ticked louder in her mind. Duval's flashlight found something else. A loop of fishing line disappearing into the slit under the door, leading back along the baseboard, vanishing beneath the radiator. A crude alarm. Cheap. Careful. Recent. A low vibration shivered through the floor, like a dryer tumbling a shoe, then stopped. They called the landlord, got voicemail, and radioed for a warrant to access the basement. While they waited, Lena crouched by the door, ear to the paint. She heard breath, not the steady rhythm of someone asleep. The clipped, damp breath of someone counting their seconds. She tried Mara's name again, softer this time. A whisper answered. Too close. Too scared. The locksmith arrived. The padlocks. Sack snapped. The recessed pull was cold as a coin at the bottom of a well. Lena gripped it, counted to 3 and slid. When the basement door swung open, The first thing they saw was not Mara. It was the wall, freshly sealed, damp in a rectangle the size of a door inside a door. And from behind that new plaster, something scraped once, then went perfectly still. Lena froze, her hand still gripping the flashlight, its beam trembling against the fresh plaster. Duval whispered, "Step back." The faint smell of lime and paint thickened as they descended. A single hanging bulb swung above the concrete floor, casting slow-moving shadows that made it look like the basement itself was breathing. The wall wasn't old. Someone had sealed it within the last 12 hours. The plaster still held fingerprints, small and deliberate, dragging downward as though the person had been smoothing from the inside. Lena ran her glove along the seam. "This wasn't a repair," she said. "It's containment." They called for forensics, but at that hour, with the nearest unit 30 minutes away, the silence stretched too long. Lena made a decision that felt like a violation of something sacred. She struck the wall with a crowbar. Once, twice, until the brittle surface cracked. The third hit exposed plastic, industrial sheeting, and behind that, something black and glistening. She peeled it open carefully. The air that escaped wasn't rot. It was cold, stale, like air from a sealed freezer. Inside was not a body. It was a chair. A wooden one, bolted to the concrete floor, wrapped in nylon straps. The walls around it were lined with soundproofing foam, each panel pressed unevenly into the wet plaster, and above the chair, scribbled across the foam in permanent marker, "If you heard it ring, it's already too late." Duval's throat tightened. "What does that mean?" Lena turned toward the corner. Something metallic flashed near the drain. It was a phone, older model, still plugged into the wall, a red light blinking once, every few seconds. She lifted it gently. The line was dead, disconnected, but the log showed dozens of missed calls, all at midnight, all from the same number. Unknown. She snapped a photo. "Dispatch said the 911 call came from Mara's number, right?" "Yeah." "This isn't hers." A sound broke through the static tension. A single knock from the ceiling above. Rhythmic, deliberate. They exchanged a look and went back upstairs, every step heavy with the kind of dread you can't train for. The living room was unchanged, except for one thing. The TV, still paused at 00:13:29, had switched itself off. The black screen reflected them faintly, and in that reflection behind them, something shifted near the window. Lena spun around. Curtains fluttered. Nothing. Duval crossed to the sill and froze. "She's been watching from here." Outside, the glass was smudged with fresh fingerprints, inside and out, like someone had been pressing their face to the pane from both sides. The neighbor from upstairs called down, "Officers, there's someone in the basement window. I saw movement." Lena and Duval exchanged glances. They'd just been down there. They rushed outside, flashlights cutting through the cold. The basement windows were narrow, half buried in soil. One of them had a hairline cracked down the middle, as if pushed from within. Behind it, a shape, a pale blur, retreated deeper into the dark. They drew closer. The smell of bleach rose again. The glass suddenly fogged from the inside. Then, faintly, through that thin pane, came the sound of a phone ringing. It wasn't coming from their radios. It was coming from beneath the house. Duval took a slow step back. "That wall?" Lena nodded. "It wasn't meant to hide her. It was meant to keep something in." The ring stopped. Her own phone vibrated in her pocket. Caller ID, Mara Ellison. She answered. "Mara, where are you?" For 3 seconds, nothing. Then a whisper, distorted, familiar. "You shouldn't have opened the door." The call ended. When they looked back toward the window, the fog was gone, replaced by a faint handprint pressed from the inside, smaller than an adult's, the same size as the ones on the missing picture frames upstairs. Lena's voice dropped to a whisper. This isn't just one person missing. Duval exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the basement. Then who made the call? But before she could answer, the light inside the house flickered once, then went black. And from somewhere inside the walls, the phone began to ring again. The house at 41B felt different when the power died, like the dark wasn't just absence but presence. Every beam and nail seemed to hum quietly, a pulse from inside the structure itself. Lena's flashlight clicked on, catching drifting dust like a swarm of silver moths. "Radio check," Duval whispered. No signal. Static swallowed every word. Then came the sound, soft but steady. A ring. Not from her phone this time, but from multiple directions at once. Upstairs, under the floor, inside the vents. Each tone slightly out of sync, like echoes arguing over who had the right to exist. "Someone's got this place wired," Duval muttered. Lena shook her head. "No, someone had it wired. This feels old." They moved through the living room toward the hall. Every step creaked in complaint. The phone on the kitchen counter vibrated again. Same number. Unknown. She picked it up, but didn't answer. She pressed record instead. The ringing stopped on its own, and for a moment there was silence. Then breathing. Male. Faint. Calm. A voice followed, quiet enough that it felt closer than the speaker. "Don't move. You're in my house now." The phone slipped slightly in her hand. Duval reached for his weapon, but she signaled him to hold. She whispered into the phone, "Where is Mara Ellison?" The voice exhaled, then said, "You already found her. You just didn't look deep enough." The line cut. They ran back to the basement door. The air had changed. Cooler, heavier, as if the temperature dropped with every step. The fresh plaster was cracked wider now, revealing more of that black soundproofing foam. But there was something behind it. Metal. A door within the wall. Duval used the crowbar. 1 strike. 2. The inner door gave way with a hollow pop. The beam of light fell on a narrow corridor leading deeper under the house, lined with rusted shelving and numbered storage bins. On the concrete floor were small chalk markings, dates, initials, and one repeating word: "Listen." They followed the path to the end. There, an open room, rough brick walls, a wooden table, and dozens of phones, every model, every decade, stacked in piles. Some still flickered, dim screens looped on missed calls. One phone sat alone on the table, newer, identical to Mara's. Its wallpaper showed a photo of her smiling with a young boy, time-stamped 2 years ago. Lena whispered, "She had a son." Duval scanned the shelves, child-sized shoes, a nurse's badge, and a maintenance uniform with Ashgrove Property Services stitched on the chest. The back of the badge read, "Paul Ellison. Husband. Deceased." So, she wasn't alone, Duval said. "Maybe she was after tonight," Lena replied. Then one of the phones on the floor lit up by itself. Incoming call, Paul Ellison. The same number, the same ring. Lena answered. "Mara," she whispered. A slow inhale, then a woman's voice. Hoarse, broken. "I tried to stop it. He built this place for listening. He said the walls remember. Every call, every secret. But when he died, the house didn't stop. It keeps calling." Lena's pulse kicked. "Where are you right now?" "I'm here," the voice said. "You're standing above me?" Then came a sound, not from the phone but from beneath their feet. A faint tapping, desperate and rhythmic. They knelt. The concrete floor was slightly uneven, a faint seam running down the center. Duval grabbed a wrench and struck the edge, once, twice, until a section of the floor caved inward, revealing a crawl space. Inside, wrapped in a thermal blanket, lay a woman, alive, shaking, eyes wide with days of fear. Mara Ellison. She clutched another phone, screen shattered, battery dying. "He told me if I ever called, the walls would wake," she said through trembling lips. "But I couldn't stay quiet anymore." They helped her out, breathless, stunned. As they reached the steps, Duval looked back. Every phone in that room began ringing in perfect unison. The sound was deafening. Lena turned just in time to see the screen on the table flicker one last time. Paul Ellison's face, blurred, frozen mid-sentence on a grainy video feed, whispering, "Answer it, Lena. I need to finish the call." The phone died. Outside, as backup finally arrived, the house at 41B went completely silent. No lights, no power. The basement door sealed itself again, as if nothing had been disturbed. Forensics later reported that none of the phones had SIM cards. No power sources, no signal history. And yet every single device showed one last outgoing call, 12:17 a.m. The same minute dispatch had received Mara's cry for help. When Lena checked her own phone later that night, a single voicemail had appeared. Timestamp 12:17 a.m. Duration 00:13:29. The same number, same voice. "Don't answer the next call." And then the sound of a phone falling into water. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe before the phone rings again.